What's up, everybody? So today we're going to be talking about construction fear number 5, and how to overcome it. We're going to be covering a few things here today. Rehabbing is definitely not for the faint of heart. Time, budget, schedules is what reigns this. So we're going to be covering at least some best practices that I've found based on my experience, and hopefully prompt you to kind of think about what route you want to take on regarding this process. Okay, so with further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to cover today the perfect contractor interview script, how to get retail sales contract insurance, and then handyman versus self project managing versus general contracting. Those are kind of the three things that we're going to be covering here in this short video. So the first one, the perfect contractor interview script. So what we like to do in our office is to do this perfect contractor interview script. What we do is we actually, even if you don't have a house under contract, but a house that you could get access to, maybe a vacant house from a wholesaler, what you want to do is you want to call 3 GCs in this case, if you're outsourcing to contractors, or if you're doing the self project management route, which we're going to be talking on later. You can call the trades, but you want to call these contractors out, and you want to figure out to that house, and you're going to have a scope or an idea of what the scope would be. And first you're going to ask them what their suggestions are on the project. Okay, what their suggestions are on the project. And if they have no suggestions, then you know right off the bat that you're going to have to be very detailed in communication with this person. Now, the second piece is you want to figure out if they arrived on time. That says a lot, okay? If they arrived on time. And third, you want to see how detailed and fast, can they get you a bid bag. Detail and fast, a bid bag, okay? Now, it's not a bad idea if they can't get you a bid like right on the spot, but if they just get you a bid on a handwritten note, rehab bathroom, rehab kitchen, that's not necessarily something that gives confidence. So we definitely want to see what their suggestions are. It's going to give us an idea. This is going to give us an idea of their experience with real estate investing, and depending on what the strategy is. You want to see if they show up on time, if they're respectful of your time and theirs. Of course, first impressions are super important. And you want to see how much detail and how fast they can get your bid back. Because if they cannot get you a bid back, in a matter of 1 to 2 days max, they're overwhelmed. I mean, at this point, they're overwhelmed. And how are they going to manage your rehab? So that's essentially how we go ahead and interview contractors. And out of those, even without having a property under contract, you can go ahead and interview a few of them. Yeah, you can rely on some online forums, and you should, because you want to be able to hold them to account. Either by social proof. Social proof is a biggie. Like sites like BBB or Facebook or whatever. You want to be able to hold them to social proof, or if there's some sort of vendor for an REI, or an REI club, right? You want to be able to essentially complain to somebody regarding them. So that'll be the first line item there. Now, the other piece is how to get retail sales contract insurance. So this is what I call contract insurance. And really the answer is pretty simple. It's called get an inspection. Okay? You want to get an inspection. Now, I'm hearing some of the naysayers, don't get an inspection, you're going to have to share it, blah, blah, blah. But you want to get an inspection prior to closing, okay? Now, the reason I say closing and not necessarily earnest money deposit or all stuff like that is because, in all honesty, a good deal, it's going to fly. You're not going to have enough time to have an inspector do a full-blown inspection, okay? And I'd rather you lose earnest money, which might be a couple of grand, than you having to rework the entire deal. Than you having to work the entire deal after you've rehabbed. So the bottom line is that to get contractor insurance or contract insurance, I would definitely say just go ahead and do an inspection right before you close. You want to get the inspection before you close so that you have a very clear scope of work. It's very much worth the hundreds of dollars that you're going to spend so that you don't have to adjust your scope midway. And the home is going to get inspected eventually, whether by you, by a retail buyer or a tenant, whatever that exit strategy is. So this is, of course, only if you're taking title to the property. And then handyman versus self, project manager, and GC. The question would be, how construction savvy are you? How much time do you have? If you have experience and you feel fully confident that you can get this done, you want to do it yourself, sure. But I'll tell you right now, that time could be spent looking for deals, getting other deals done. So as an investor, you want to start thinking that your time is very valuable and that, you should be delegating what you can, what does not match that higher level of dollar per hour activities, high revenue activities. So, GCs, they're typically, there's all varieties out there. We found that the better quality and better turnaround, the more expensive they are. They pay for systems, they pay for softwares. If you're interviewing GCs and they don't have a software system, I'd be very concerned. But again, take it with a grain of salt. I've had through my time some good GCs that didn't, but they disappeared. Later on, they lasted for 3 jobs. They would complete them, but then they would be out of business and just, prison, jail, I don't know, all sorts of those things, deported. So, bottom line is at this point, you got to make a decision. I've seen some people pull off, project managing yourself. Typically what you want to do here is have a 3-man crew for the cosmetics, a 3-man crew for the cosmetics that you can hold to account, get the materials, drop from Home Depot at the site, and then just have your trades, your licensed trades show up and do the job. And the most important thing when you're doing this to not forget is the sequencing. Okay, the sequencing of the rehabbing is huge. You want to start ordering your materials ahead of time, have them dropped at the site, and make sure that you have the sequencing of the scope. Now, if you feel confident in doing that, you might be able to save anywhere between 15 to maybe 25% of a job. If you ask me, is it worth it? Not really. Your deal should be made, or your money should be made in the buying and selling, not the managing and the construction piece. But if you want to start getting yourself familiar with that and more comfortable with that, then sure, go ahead. But I would definitely recommend just really vetting a lot of GCs and outsourcing that completely so that you can find more deals, okay? So I hope you enjoyed this video. Fear number 5 regarding construction. One last tip is that I forgot to mention in terms of payment schedules and structuring those, you never want the construction guys or gals get ahead of you. And the reality of it is in real life that the good GCs, they will require some sort of down payment, but that's where the social proof and the fact that there are, they're vendors in a certain REI club, matters. Because they're small business owners, they're not going to want to give up their good reputation and continue business to steal a couple of grand just from one job. Otherwise, they would have done it already. Okay. So I hope you found that useful. And I will see you on the next video.